Hey everyone, it's Hydro Pump here. So yeah, we got a tier list starting off 2025. I think this would be a good time to make another tier list just to recap what happened in 2024 and just things I think to come for 2025 in Edison format. Uh, Something I would like to really do for Edison format, because I work with Mika on getting him deck lists from tournaments, like top 8 deck lists from bigger tournaments. Just like if you look at this archive here, we have like all these tournament series like Ribbits and Ultimate Time Wizards would be a big one. So I give him the deck list. I do the research just through like YouTube channels and just like posting deck lists that way. But if it was if there's like a community to gather all these deck lists and make it so we have as much info from these tournaments, like how many players, the tournament location, and just like the top 8 deck lists and those players that piloted those decks. That'd be really cool just to have, just to make everyone can look at the information much easier. So, um, yeah, if we just are able to like fill in the blanks on sformat.com on getting deck lists, I think that'd be really cool. This makes it so everyone can look at them too. And Format Library is also a great resource for finding deck lists as well. But this is kind of like filling in the blanks. And the biggest one is Ultimate Time Wizards because it's really up to the community to put their deck lists out there. In the last Ultimate Time Wizard, Anaheim, I believe Konami posted the top 4 deck lists. Maybe they can expand on that a little more and put top 8 or something like that. Anyways, I think it'll be a really cool idea. So if anyone wants to do the research and digging for deck lists and all that stuff, you can find me on Discord and shoot me a message, and we can work on putting them as format.com. So so I'm gonna be doing a tier list today, and I made a tier list video about a year ago. Here it is, and it has a lot of decks on there. It's just like a lot of clutter. So I try to focus on decks that actually topped in 2024 for this current tier list. The sections we got are won many tournaments at the very top, has won tournaments, has many tops, and has like a few tops. So those are kind of like the categories I'm going off of. This one was more so, the one I did last year was more so like how I feel the decks are. But here is just going more so off of how they performed in 2024. Okay, and for resources on me gathering these deck lists that I'm going to be going over, we got esformat.com, we got formatlibrary.com, we got I'm Nerd podcast channel on YouTube, we got E3 Yu-Gi-Oh, and we have Beast Mode's channel. So yeah, those are all really good resources, and that I have found these deck lists for. Alright, we're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to try to work from top to bottom here. So, like decks that have won many tournaments, we will just start off with Gladiator Turbo because it's probably won the most tournaments. And, this deck was pretty dominant in, I believe, like the first half, and it's been pretty good still. And this is like kind of like example deck list of recent Edison World Championship for 2024 televisuals deck list. This is pretty much like close to a standard V Turbo deck list, just kind of like some key things that are different. Most builds play, most builds kind of like don't play Solemn Judgment anymore, or they moved it to the side, or in this case, this build doesn't even play it at all. Chaos Source is pretty much like a staple in lists. They ditched the Spirit Reaper, and just played Necroguard now. And they made that deck Devastation like 1 to 2 copies usually. So those were like the key difference, and like some older builds used to play like 3 Caius and 2 Sirocco's. I think Sirocco's is too good not to play at 3, and then Caius at 3 can kind of brick It's still pretty good, but you can lead the bricks. So those are like the key differences for Vayu this year, and I think it's pretty good. So, and it's definitely won a lot of tournaments this year. And the next deck we're gonna go with here is Frog Hero. This deck has definitely won a lot of tournaments as well. We can look at a list here. This is Sunny's winning deck list from the Ribbit Rulers this year, or 2024. You know, it has like a couple of differences. Like, it doesn't have any discard traps in this particular list, but most builds do play discard traps and whatnot. So there's like slight variations in all lists, but you know, you have the Frog engine and the Hero engine. You put them together, it's a really good deck. It's really hard to pinpoint like choke points for Frog Heroes compared to like regular Frog decks, where those decks usually rely really hard on Treeborn Frog, like a typical Frog Monarch deck. Frog Hero, you know, they still have like, if you deal with like the Frog engine, they still have the Hero engine to, you know, go off of. So yeah, really diverse deck, and you know, hard to beat. And behind Frog Hero, I'm gonna put Black Wings. Black Wings was actually kind of struggling at the beginning half of the year. It's just kind of like rough. This is the winning deck list from RBET Los Angeles, and this deck featured 3 Jar of Greed and 3 Yada, so it's kind of like the right before Nationals, like everyone was hyping up these draw traps, and I think they're pretty good. Thins down the deck, they're bluffs, and I think it works pretty good in Black Wings. You know, this deck, that was like the main changes with Black Wings in 2024, just like having that change in deck list. And the monster lineup is pretty standard for the most part. But yeah, Black Wings is still a really good deck. I think it's just slightly behind like Frog Hero as far as like amount of decks or tournaments it won. It actually did really good in Europe, Black Wings, and this tier list is trying to consider the European tournaments because, you know, they were still tournaments as well. There's just like not as much you know, information gathered from those tournaments, or lack of. I think they're doing better recently, but like 2023, 2024 was really hard to gather information from those European tournaments. And next we're gonna put Frogs. This is a couple of different decks. This is going to be like Stun Frogs or traditional like Frog Monarchs, and this also includes Dream Frogs. Dream Frogs in particular has won like 2 Ultimate Time Wizards in 2024, and the Stun Frog deck has won Edison Qualifier tournament. So yeah, both are pretty good. Dream Frogs was kind of like a innovation. I kind of consider it as Frog Monarchs, like just because like the only difference is playing like a bigger frog package with the Fishport Blasters, but other than that, I mean, it's really just like a Frog Monarch deck. And I mean, not really sure where the name Dream Frog came from. A better name would probably be like Wet Dream. We'll just stick with the Dream Frogs. But yeah, this deck's pretty good. It hasn't really performed too well recently because those decks have started implementing like deck devastation virus and a lot more focus on hating like this engine. Like I was just watching a tournament the other day, and the opponent had like all their frog guys set up, like the dupe block, flip flop, substitute, the full setup, and the opponent had deck devastation virus and Sirocco, and then just the Blackwing player just like blew him out. That's like, it was just kind of crazy. But yeah, I feel like people have definitely like adjusted to this strategy a little more this second half of the year, but like in the summer months it was definitely doing really good. And the Stun Frog decks, it's pretty good as well. It's like a lot of hate, and you know, it's a little reliant on Treeborn Frog, like I was saying before, but yeah, it's still pretty good. And okay, And next we have Machina Control. Usually, Machina Control won 2 European tournaments, but there was also like a Monster Mash deck, which I consider Machina, that won another European tournament. So this is kind of like this isn't like one of those lists, but this is kind of like what a Machina Control deck list looks like. It's pretty much just like Hamster Reiko Caius, with Pot Avarices and the Machina engine. That's pretty much what it comes down to, and so this is kind of like what they basically look like. And this was kind of like the Monster Mash build that won. Again, the only spells and traps that are main decked is the Pot Avarice. And so you're just taking the Machina engine and the Monster Mash engine, kind of combining them, and it works pretty well. So definitely a really cool deck. So it won about like 3 tournaments, and Frogs won about like 3 tournaments, at least this year. So yeah, and just comparing to my original tier list here, just to kind of catch up on this from last year, I have Machine Control and the Frog decks as tier 2. And then like the Frog Hero, Blackwing, Vayu, those are all like 1.5 to tier 1. So Frog Hero has bumped up into like the caliber of Vayu and Blackwings, and Machine Controls us, and regular Frogs are kind of like the step right under that. So that's kind of like in line with what we have here. Again, nothing too groundbreaking. Alrighty, so and then the next deck that has kind of took 2024 by storm is Gladiator Beast. Now everyone before 2024 was like, Glad Beast sucks, this deck isn't real. But a year ago, okay, so it hasn't really had any wins in Edison format, but I said, hey, Glad Beast, I think they're pretty good, and I put them in tier 2, even above Machina Control. So, and lo and behold, it went ahead and won 2 tournaments in 2024, and they're actually really unique deck lists. Not that one. So this was right at the beginning of the year, after I made that tier list video. This was Spiral winning a Peak of the Beak tournament, and he was playing like a list featuring like Test Ape, and Hero Signal, so just like a build we haven't really seen before. And so he won that tournament, so that was a really unique build that won. And then later on, this was a Gladiator Beast deck list that won a Rivet tournament in New York, and it was featuring Guardian Diados, and it's a lot more like kind of stun elements, straightforward, less combo related, and it didn't play like Test Tigers or anything. So 2 very different deck lists of Gladiator Beast, but they both won, and usually don't see these kind of lists with Glad Beast. So I respected Glad Beast in this last tier list I made, and I think it did pretty good in 2024, so I think it fits right in here. And then the next deck we have is Dragon Turbo. It's won by Raikoko, and he won another Rivet tournament, and it's kind of just like standard Dragon Turbo for the most part. But I still think this deck's really good. It did really good in 2023, won like 2 or 3 tournaments there, and 2024 it still managed to get a win. So I still think this deck's really good, and it's like right up there with some of the best decks. So that's how I feel about Dragon Turbo. And then another deck that got a win was Christius Warren. Now Christius Warren won Ultimate Time Wizard Niagara Falls, and it was a kind of unique build. It's kind of like had a little bit of everything. It had like Pot Avarice, had Wolves, it had Soul and Purity of Light. This was like a snippet from Beast Mode's deck profile. I don't have the exact deck list, but it was like 44 cards, so it was like kind of like had a lot going on. But this is kind of like the other Christius Warren list. This one features Wolf and not the Soul and Purity Light stuff, so it's a little more like on the Lightsworn engine side of things. And this is what one looks like more so on the fairy side of things with Soul Impurity Light, and this one doesn't feature Wolf at all. So there's a couple different ways you can go with it, but they're all pretty good. So just to give you an idea what that looks like. And a deck that got a win was Welidad or Teledad. It's essentially just Teledad, but it plays on a words with the well card that they play, the power well. So it's kind of like they usually play like 2 or 3 copies. This list plays 2 copies, but kind of looks like an old school Teledad list. Now there's a zombie. This deck usually plays like the zombies, like a small zombie engine with like goblin zombies and stuff. This one doesn't do that, so I think it's purely just like a Welidad list. Whereas like I'd maybe even consider the other ones like a zombie list if it's considering the zombies. But this one's pretty cool. This is kind of like 2009 watered down version of Teledad. So, and you got like the Dark Arm Dragon, you got the teleport and Destiny Draw and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty cool deck that managed to win a Peak of the Beak tournament. And I think that's about all the decks that won. So that's going to be the end of this category. So just recapping that, Frogs won like 3 tournaments at least, big ones, and Machina won about 3. Gladiator Beast won 2. Dragon Turbo, Curseus Sworn, and Welidad all won 1 big tournament. And now we're going to the decks that hasn't really won, but they often top a lot at tournaments, and this one is going to go for like Amaryllis. Amaryllis, it's come really close to winning. You got 2nd place at Ultimate Time Wizard Raleigh, and then after that, following that, that was like kind of like during the spring, the summer, and then after that, it just started topping a lot, like 2 or 3 copies of the deck, like in Top Cut, and then kind of like. It kind of just went in a lull a little bit, and then it came back during the championship rounds of like the winter of 2024. Anyways, there's like slight variations of all different deck lists. I think there's like a version of this deck now that features Cyber Valley that's doing pretty good. But all in all, I think the deck's weakness is kind of just Black Wings. Like it does good in the Frogs and Vayu Turbo, but Blackwing matchups is really hard to overcome, and I don't think anyone's really, have the formula for dodging, or just like, you can dodge Blackwings in a tournament, but like, if you end up playing it, it's going to be rough because you're just kind of walling up with Danny tokens and Amaryllis and in defense mode, and those have 0 defense, so you're just taking Bora Pierces, Arnwing Pierces, and it comes really hard to win. It's like, you're playing the burn strategy, but you're getting burned by Pierce, so against Blackwings anyways. So and as far as Amaryllis, I had it as tier 2, so it's kind of like, again, it's still pretty good. It's just like right in line with that. So yeah, pretty solid deck. And then the next deck here we have is Zombies. Zombies is kind of in a similar situation. It maybe not has topped as much, but it's definitely gotten like 2nd place like 2 or 3 times, so it's come really close to winning. And there's like several builds of zombies. There's like the instant zombies. The one on the screen here is like the hero zombies that actually plays Miracle Fusion. Sometimes they play Miracle Fusion, sometimes they don't. There's the Ultimate Offering zombies that Beast Mode likes to play. So there's like several builds. I called them zombies, but they all play the zombie engine and like something else. And again, there's even like the Welidad zombie list. So yeah, there's like several different variations, but they all kind of just make it into many tops. Like they'll constantly like kind of sneak in 1 copy into tournaments and maybe like do some damage, but haven't quite gotten the win yet, so we'll just leave it there. And something that is kind of similar to zombies, actually in this list, it kind of fits in as a zombie deck, but it's Diva Hero. This is one that topped recently in the Edison World Championship, featuring spies. Sometimes they play spies, sometimes they don't. But yeah, Diva Hero is solid. It's like, it's actually, I can think it's topped like a couple Ultimate Time Wizards, and again topped in that tournament. Again, tends to sneak in similar to zombies, just doesn't really get the win. But you kind of just, these decks kind of like constantly top just to have a one. So yes, Diva Heroes pretty similar to zombies in that case. And then we have Lightsworn. Now this kind of could be like, we already kind of featured Christiasworn, which is its own thing that got a win, but Lightsworn or like Twilight, those decks tend to top, but haven't really won. This is a pure build that topped Rivet Rulers. So yeah, pure is really good, just like, because without something like Light Imprisoning Mirror, it's not like a lot of hate for the deck, and you usually don't get destroyed by like any particular side deck card. So yeah, it can be hard to beat. And then there's the Twilight build that features Chaos Sorcerer and Dark Arm Dragon, and a couple other dark monsters that usually like has like monster reincarnation and such with it. So yeah, both are pretty good, and they both like top quite often. And then the next deck is Hero Beat, which is kind of like the laughing stock of 2024, because 2023 was considered one of the best decks, and then it's kind of like fell from grace, and no one really plays it all that often. But it actually kind of topped, like it has a couple tops in the like Ultimate Time Wizard, like during the spring and the summer, like it topped a couple times, and then here in this Rivet tournament, it managed to top as well. So some kind of just went back to like the pure build with like skill drains and whatnot, and then some still kind of stick with the Diva engine as like a water. But yeah, it still manages to top, even though it's kind of like the meme, like, oh, the deck never wins. Still kind of stays true. I don't think it won like a massive tournament ever, but it definitely still tops, and so you gotta like just be something to watch out for. So yeah, that's kind of like the section of decks that like have many tops that just haven't quite won yet, but they do top quite often. And I think that like in my old tier list, I had like Diva Hero Beat like overrated for 2024 standards. But most of the other decks are kind of like in the tier 2 section, anyways, based on my old tier list. And this next section is decks that have a few tops, maybe like top like once or twice, but just not very consistently. But hey, they still get there. But this next one is X-Sabers. X-Sabers, it's topped like Ultimate Time Wizard in Europe, and then it also topped Ultimate Time Wizard in the States. Got top 4 there, so this is kind of like that list that Fraser was using for a video. But yeah, this deck is it can be pretty scary because you get the hand loops and all that going with like Fall Troll and Gothams, and you can do like several things. So the deck's pretty solid. I think it actually, bold prediction, I think this deck will win a large scale tournament in 2025. That's my bold prediction for this year. Yeah, so the deck's pretty solid, I think. And then we got Frog Combo or Forgs next. This as well topped a few Ultimate Time Wizards or tournaments online. It's kind of like a Frog deck, but not really. It really leans into the combo side of things with like Fishborg Blaster or Substitute. Even plays Dandelion. It doesn't play any Monarchs, so you can't really call it like a Frog Monarch deck. Well, this particularly built sides Kai's, but it has like 3 more Degrees, 3 Power Avarice, 3 Salvage, and Reckless Greed. So it's really like a really fast deck, and you can do like the army arm colossal fighter thing, pretty good. So, and you just have like the toolbox frogs, like uni frog, flip flop frog. So it's kind of like dream frog, but just like you cutting like the tributes and then just going full combo. So this deck's pretty cool. And it definitely has a decent representation. But yeah, it's called Forgs, Fishborg, Frogs, or just like I just call it Frog Combo because it's pretty much what it is. And then a deck that has is topped is Chain Beat featuring Wing Rhinos. This isn't the build that topped the Ultimate Time Wizard, but it topped the Ultimate Time Wizard in Europe. It's essentially the same strategy. You just combine like you know, it's kind of like chain burn, but you just have like beaters instead of like trying to burn your opponent. But it plays all the draw traps and stuff like that, and then you can use Wing Rhinos to balance it just as a beater, and then so it's a cool deck. It's kind of like if people don't know what's going on, like they might be in trouble. But I feel like if you know what you're doing against a deck, you probably just like you can probably beat it. But that's just kind of how those kind of decks work. But it is definitely a little bizarre if you don't know what's going on. And then Dark Gaia has a top as well. This one that was at the beginning of 2024. In March, it topped a Ribbit, online Ribbit, and it's not like the rock build. There's like two kind of builds. There's like a build featuring rocks, like Gaia plate and whatnot. This one's more like in the hero side with Prisma and whatnot, and the golems and all that stuff. So I think the deck's okay. It's just like you're kind of just playing some mediocre cards just to satisfy like Dark Gaia. So this was like the only big tournament it topped though, so it just kind of snuck in there at the beginning of the year, but it did top. So, and then we got dragons here. This would be like the dragon control deck, or like the features like Caius, Reiko Caius, hamsters, that engine, or it kind of just is just like the regular old disaster dragons. But yeah, the control build managed to top here, and yep, it's hamster, Reiko Caius, and dragons. Don't really think too highly of this build, just because I feel like Dragon Turbos is like a better dragon deck, and this only topped one time as far as I can see in 2024. So, and then we got fairies here. This actually topped a Ultimate Time Wizard in Toronto. It's Valhalla fairies, so kind of like a variation. So if you have like the Valhalla up with the Tethys and you draw fairies, you can just turbo through your deck. And it does play with a lot of fairies. It's kind of like the regular fairy deck too with the DD Warrior Ladies. So it has like a lot of recruiters, 6 recruiters, and yeah, so it's an interesting deck. But I think this is like literally the only top for fairies in 2024. So that's kind of why it goes down here. And the next deck is Fish OTK. Again, I think it has like a couple tops. Most significantly, it has a top like Ultimate Time Wizard Anaheim, I believe. And yeah, this is kind of what it looks like. This build features Teva. The skip battle phase, kind of like a walking threatening roar. So you kind of just stall till you get to the Qualicant OTK. And in most cases, you can do Armory Arm OTK with Colossal Fighter. This case you cannot, because the Deep Fissure was on the field, but yeah, that's a story for another time. And then the last deck we're going to bring up here is Quick Draw. It's managed to top a tournament in November, another Ribbit, and it's kind of like a typical Quick Draw deck that features like a hero engine. The reason it features the heroes is kind of just like for Future Fusion to send Dandy. So it's an easy way with like revealing the Dark Gaia. So it's not like a big hero engine, but you know, it's like features a couple heroes: Stratos, Alias, Evil Guy. Evil Guy could be treated for Kaya, so there's that. But yeah, kind of just like somewhat typical quick draw deck, like the good old days. So yeah, just comparing to, I feel like I have like this old tier list I have, and it's like a bunch of random stuff because at the time I was trying to think of every single possible deck list or deck and variation, but people started using this tier list and they're like, I don't know what this deck is. So I just kind of kept it very simple with this tier list maker, so everyone kind of understands what the deck lists are and what's going on and whatnot. So I feel like this will be a better one for other people to use as a resource, this maker. And I just kind of simplified it rather than having a bunch of random jank in there. So, but I feel like for the most part, like comparing this one at the beginning of 2024 to this tier list of 2025, let's look for things like, so Diva Hero, or Diva Hero B, or Hero B kind of fell off the face of the earth. Kind of like it kind of went down to like the tier 2, tier 3 section. Dark Calling, I was really hyped for this deck, but I don't think really people have been playing it. I was more so considering like the rock build, because I feel like the rock build is pretty good, but I feel like it has like some consistency issues that it needs to overcome. So that deck definitely fell off. Hybrid Blackwings is a thing I didn't cover in this tier list, but like it's just Vayu and Blackwings combined. People kind of took it more to the extreme this time, because the old Hybrid Blackwing list just kind of was like Blackwings featuring Dark Refer, but there's like a lot more elements of Vayu Turbo combined with the Blackwing engine. It kind of more looks like Vayu Turbo with Black Whirlwinds and a couple other Blackwings in it now. So I don't really have Norlaris in this, but Norlaris did top in 2023, so that's why I had it on this tier list. But Norlaris, I think once Vayu and Frolics kind of became like top tier deck lists, or I mean Vayu's kind of always been, but those decks kind of just like wrecked the Norlaris engine or strategy, so that's probably why you don't see much Norlaris decks current day. And the Frog decks I had there in tier 2, so that's pretty good. And Gemini deck doesn't really do anything. I had like a lot of zombies and fairy variants down here in tier 3. X-Sabers in tier 3, which I think X-Sabers went up a little bit. And Quick Draw in tier 3 kind of just stayed about where it's at. And then all these other decks are kind of random. So yeah, well, I had down in tier 3, which managed to get a win. It's kind of weird. It's like, I'm pretty sure that's like the only time you saw Well Dead top, it managed to win. So technically it has won. It just doesn't really top very often, because again, people need to play the decks and then have success with them. But yeah, it did manage to win. So this is kind of like how the format laid out. Let me know if you think this is kind of like represents the format well. Again, these are kind of just results on 2024, and again, I kind of said that I think X-Sabers is going to win a tournament in 2025. Do I have any other bold predictions? Let's see. I feel like, let's see. I feel like Amaryllis will probably get a win. So X-Sabers will get a win. Amaryllis will get a win. Yeah, those are kind of like my two big predictions as far as this. I feel like a new deck will get introduced in 2025 that we haven't seen before, and it will get a few tops. So there will be some new build that everyone kind of just freaks out about, like, and it will start topping. Those are kind of like my big three things. But anyways, let me know if you enjoyed this tier list, your thoughts. Did I miss anything that topped a big tournament, just let me know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.